I think we're live, everyone.
Hey.
Well, welcome to the first ever Plan A live stream. I guess I'm your de facto host, Adam. I'm here with Chris, Teen, Jong, Jess, and Filip.
Hi.
Hey, guys.
Hey, what's up?
This is the first time that I think any one of us has done this other than Teen. Teen's been on a few streams, right?
Yeah.
Stream veteran. But,
yeah. I know which way to point my cam now.
That's right.
Yeah.
So what do we want to start talking about? Let's just start talking.
Yeah,
I'm just not used to like seeing people. It's not doing it for me. I need you guys to be disembodied voices.
Yeah,
Just
You don't like
a
seeing
theoretical
voices in
Chris
your
that I'm
head.
talking to. You know, like this
Also,
makes
Chris,
it
are you
too real.
holding? Are you holding the mic? Are you going to be holding the mic the whole time?
Yeah. So hey, if you want to subscribe, Patreon, you know,
That's right.
let's start a fund drive. Get Chris a mic stand.
That's
This
right.
is actually how you
join our Patreon.
This is how you
our
record
Patreon.
every podcast, basically, right? You
Yeah.
hold the mic up.
I mean, this is pretty much the most workout I get, holding this mic for an hour.
Because even when the times I potted back in the day in your place in New York, I'd be holding a mic too, and it feels like we're like on a talk show, but no one's filming us. You know?
You're like in
All right,
Kramer's apartment where he's like, hey, welcome back.
Yeah. Oh, thank you for having me.
Yeah.
Those were the days. No, I mean, this is the nice mic. Back then, I had the Samsung Go mic, which is
That's
the
right.
one you're
It's a
using,
clip-on, yeah.
right? Philip, yeah, that one. And I would clip it onto my bookshelf because I somehow accidentally, you know how humans probably discovered fire by accident just because lightning or whatever. I don't know how I discovered it, but I realized if I clipped my mic into the bookshelf, it sounded better, and I think it's because it creates like this sound box. So I was living in this tiny studio, so I would clip it on there. I would be talking into a bookshelf by myself for every podcast.
Totally
Probably from
normal. Totally
episode
normal.
1 to probably 100 something until I got this. That's how I'd be doing it. Yeah.
I do remember being huddled next to you, like the two of us facing the
Yeah,
corner
yeah.
of the box.
So funny. Well, we're not just shouting into the void. We do have a few people with us. Yasmin, who's been a writer for us, she's on there.
Hey, Yasmin.
And-
Thank you so much
Yes.
for being here.
And just
Yeah.
as a preview,
Yasmin.
Yasmin and I are working on a podcast that we're going to be doing recording in the next couple of weeks. It's about international adoption. We're going to watch the Pharaoh versus Allen documentary, but it's not about that. It's just sort of as a primer. But we're super excited to work on this, and hopefully you guys will enjoy it when it comes out. And then we've got CS. CS
Hey,
is
what's
a
up,
friend of
CS?
the pod. Millie's here.
Millie, hey.
Millie is saying there's an echo, so maybe Chris, you're gonna have to put on those headphones.
Ah, fuck. All right. All right. I'll be right back.
Hi, Millie. I miss you so much.
All right.
Had to say that.
Yes, of course. So I guess instead of us just sort of, shooting the shit like this on random stuff, we
Millie, is
did
that
wanna
better?
talk-
Sorry to interrupt.
That's okay. Chang says no echo, so I think Millie
That
might
took
be
care of it?
lying. Yeah, no, I'm kidding. So I think the overarching topic we did want to talk about was the changing landscape of, I think, Asian American culture and sort of the Asian American political consciousness since we've started the magazine. Is that does that sound right, Teen?
I think so. Yeah. How long has it been since we started? I always lose track.
4
I
years.
keep thinking.
I
Or-
always think of I think the exact date our first articles went online was like August 23rd, 2017. So we're approaching the 4-year mark.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would say let's talk about, that time. Because I remember when we were all frantically trying to put that website together, and Filip, you were down in the Lower East Side and we got everything banged out, and then
Spread House. Rest
Spread
in
House
peace.
Cafe.
Spread-
Yeah, they didn't make
it's
it.
Gone now,
gone.
eh?
I mean, it wasn't because of COVID. They closed before that. But I was very sad because that place was cool. because they were
Yeah.
open until like midnight, and they were a coffee house that.
Wasn't
And they
one
had-
of the waitresses there like Asian, and we had her like read our mission statement, and she was like, "Oh, it's pretty good." Do you remember that?
I don't know, maybe.
Yeah, I remember
You
her.
might be totally imagining that. I'm not sure.
No,
if
I'm
that
not.
happened.
I swear that.
Oh,
happened.
really?
Yeah.
They had that really bougie apple juice, Martinelli's or whatever.
See us.
Yeah.
Yes, the turds have all
must have
gathered.
been what the people that worked there thought. You know, the turds have gathered at their.
Yeah.
But
This is the
Thanks,
first.
CS.
I mean,
Keeping it honest.
and we are
Keep it
covering quite like the whole like North American continent. We've got kind of covered, and we've all met each other, but this is
Oh,
the first time I'm seeing everybody all at once, even if it's virtual, right?
Yeah,
I
that's
think
true.
well, that's
Yeah.
probably true.
Maybe. Yeah.
Yeah, interesting.
It doesn't
But yeah.
feel like a new experience, but yeah, maybe.
No, we might have done a couple privately because
I
we've
think
done like
so.
test runs.
Yeah, we might have.
But with video though.
Yeah, we tried Google Hangouts once or twice.
Oh right, yeah, that's
Yeah,
true.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But so,
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
but that was
teen-
more. That was just more so we would be looking at each other while talking, and I didn't like that.
Yeah,
I didn't like that at all.
she doesn't look the look of our faces.
Yeah.
Got too real.
was
No,
like, I
it's
don't
like,
really-
what the
I don't-
hell?
I like you guys a lot
You
less
guys are real
when I see your
people.
faces.
Yeah.
She's like,
Yeah,
the
what the
turds have
hell?
gathered.
Problem is when we do it
She's
live,
like, I got a
we-
haircut for this. None of you did. This is bullshit.
No, what are you talking
I
about?
got a haircut. I got the
put on
That's what I
haircut.
mean.
clothes.
Jess is
Yeah.
like, I got a haircut, and none of you
yeah, it
guys
looks like
did. And
Yeah.
like,
He got a
come on.
haircut too.
What's that?
Yeah.
He got a haircut too. He looks like he's ready to go back into
There
work.
you go.
Yeah, exactly.
But so, but that was a weird time. 2017 was
ancient
like,
history.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
seems like a long time ago, but it wasn't that long ago.
I think we were still like in the sort of holy shit, Trump is president phase.
We definitely were.
Right. And
Oh,
because that was around that was still sort of in the beginning phase of his presidency. And I think like from that point till now, I feel like things have changed a lot. I guess I thought it would be interesting if we tried to if people gave their thoughts as to what the change over the, because it's been a very eventful 4 years. And I feel like I have really changed my
Yeah.
viewpoints on things, you know. So if anyone has a thought, I mean,
Well, if you were to use one measure of change, being the relevance of Asian Americans from that time to now, I might put out that it was like pretty flat, and then just like a few weeks ago with Atlanta, spiked right up, and now the stuff happening in Minneapolis, maybe dipping down a little bit more, right? Like that might have been.
I would say COVID was the sort of like big event that made Asians front and center.
earlier. Yeah.
Yeah, and
And
then
then the
that
little
on top
islands
of the, and then this increasing rhetoric about China, because I think in 2017 we were talking more about North Korea,
Oh
and
yeah.
I think there was a lot of
If
rhetoric
we
about
were,
North
yeah.
Korea. Yeah,
Do they have a nuke? Do they have a nuke?
I think it's a.
Yeah, there was the whole Winter Olympics and then like Kim Jong Un disappearing, maybe, and then his sister,
Oh
kind of,
yeah,
had a
like he
moment.
died for the first time. Yeah, he died
Yeah,
for the first
something
time.
and
like
then
that.
there was this whole
Like,
back and forth between
Yeah.
Trump and Kim Jong Un, and Kim called him a dotard. And
Yes.
Trump was like, "I'll fucking nuke the shit out of your country. Fuck you." You know,
Called him a
like
what?
a dotard.
Yeah,
D-O-T-A-R-D.
Very
Dotard,
old
yeah.
school term. I'm like,
Yeah, it was just this whole thing where there was just a back and forth between Kim and Trump.
I mean,
And
but it was also a time where Trump tweeting out Kafefe was like national news.
Yeah.
Like,
No,
I
one of
mean,
my top 3 favorite Trump tweets of all time is when he said, "I don't know why Kim Jong calls me old when I would never call him short and fat. Oh well, I try so hard to be his friend. Maybe next time."
You had that wait, did you repeat it verbatim? Like you have it memorized?
Almost. I love those Trump tweets. I gotta confess. I have to screenshot it. I have a whole data vault of all of them, so I will never lose them.
Why didn't anyone sell that as an NFT? Screenshots of
I'm
you
trying to
know,
track
you
your
know,
Twitter
someone's
history?
gonna.
Jess,
I mean, there's
you
that
get
whole
rich-
website,
Should-
like W says, right?
If no one's doing it, I'm doing it.
You should
Yes.
do it.
Just do it.
Yeah.
All it costs is
Yeah.
like equivalent CO2 output of like 16 flights with an NFT together. So why not? Let's do it.
yeah, I mean that
Yeah,
that
fuck
fits
the
in with what you're
penguins.
doing it for, Trump.
Yeah.
Fuck the penguins. I'm telling you, they're assholes. Melt the glaciers. Melt the shit out of them. Yeah.
You know, one thing I think
I'm a very different
when-
person on video, I think.
Yeah.
on a serious note, I think to answer your question, T, like one answer I would give you is a big difference for me between 2017 and now is the legitimacy of Asian-centric platforms like NextShark. Like when NextShark, I think came out like early 2018, maybe.
Sounds about
Maybe
right.
maybe they were around earlier, and I just didn't hear about them until later.
I think they were
on.
before us.
Yeah, probably. They've been around for a long time. But initially, people were kind of like, is this real? You know, like, are they reliable? Is it bullshit? But I think now, NextShark has definitely been established as kind of like perhaps a little tabloidy. Sorry, guys, if you guys, are offended by that. But definitely a good source of news. I think like they are first to report, or NextShark is at least often cited as the source for a lot of news that I come across, and people share a lot of NextShark stuff with me. And then like the various Instagram accounts, right? Like you've got like Asians with Attitudes that's coming to top of mind. There's probably a few more that I'm missing, but just all these different.
There was the whole subtle Asian thing.
There was a subtle Asian thing.
I don't know if that's still active or not.
They are, but they're very apolitical. I think I checked them out recently, and they really don't post about stuff like this.
Yeah,
No.
They don't
But
even
just
talk about
generally-
like the crime wave stuff.
I don't really think so.
They basically did not. I think they might have talked a bit about Atlanta because, like, how could you fucking not? But
Wow.
effectively, no, right? They're like the apolitical Boba Libs, right? Who just don't give a fuck.
Right. But I have to say, Jess, that is an amazing stand for your magic pen or whatever.
yeah.
It's Caesar.
What?
And you stab him in the back.
Oh, shit. Yeah.
No,
Okay,
you
well,
just
since
moved
it
it
already
in the
got-
picture. I thought that was like deliberate. I watched
Yeah.
you move it in the
No,
Oh,
like, I
that's
was
so
moving.
good.
I'm like, that is an amazing
Yeah.
holder.
I was like, why does
Right?
that guy have a spear in his back? But
A2
it's-
Brute. Oh, well,
Like-
Kelly Wang
Yeah, see, you
mentions
can
that
see.
content that's been deemed political is banned.
Jesus
Subtle
Christ.
Asian
What
traits.
There
the
you go.
fuck does that even
So,
mean?
I mean,
I
talk
think
about
that-
censorship right there.
Here's the thing. The weird thing is like I've come over time. I've become a little bit more Bobalib myself. I can understand because if you're moderating these things, it really does get hand. Like one thing is that Asian people I've noticed over the past 4 years are very much more dug into certain like political beliefs than we had thought. And what happened on
Oh,
Reddit?
fuck those people, subtle Asian activists.
Oh, so, I have no idea what that is,
I
but
forgot that was even a thing.
yeah,
I think they banned. Well, I know they banned me or something, but they probably have us all on a blacklist.
is it like an Our Asian American type thing, or
Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I
Remember
mean,
that?
I-
Remember
it's,
that?
it's just a matter of what the space is for. I've stopped criticizing. Like it sounds kind of weird to be like, oh, everything political has been banned from X, Y, or Z space. But what if it's not for that, right? Like I think we struggled with that too, quite a bit. What is this thing that we're doing supposed to be about? We decided like we struggled with this, and we've had fallout that we've had to confront with that, right? Is it supposed to be, a safe space, which is kind of a therapeutic space, right? In which case you shouldn't be talking about things that could potentially be
right.
cause conflict or potentially re-traumatize. Not all spaces can be all things to all people, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's I mean, so I'm not in subtle Asian anything, so I'll let people who are actually involved in that, disagree or agree or whatever with how they feel that there's multiple kinds of spaces for multiple kinds of things. Where it's kind of do you remember the dark days of like 2005? Those of you who were born around that,
Yeah.
like who were still who were alive around that time, when it's basically like one place, right? You just go to like Reddit or what was it like Digger?
Dig.
Yeah,
Dig.
there was nothing
Yeah,
like
it
what
was
we
like
have now. So I
something
think
like that.
biggest
that's a real
website in
win.
the world. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I'm not quite upset that like subtle Asian traits sort of bans all political talk, as long as like every political perspective, right? As long as there isn't like a bias, then What does it
Well,
matter?
and as long as there's alternatives, I mean, as long as they're not the only game in town and there's
Right.
other places to go, which there
But
is, so that's fine.
Yeah.
But the trouble with that is the same trouble as our Asian American on Reddit, right? Which is like the largest Asian American subreddit, in that they have a massive mindshare of Asian Americans online. And so if any group of people like us want to get people more politically activated, it's super unfortunate those places have such a large hold and are unwilling to talk about politics, right? So SubtleAsianTraits, last I checked, was 1.9 million people subscribed on Facebook. That's probably the biggest online Asian American community out there, period. Right? So it doesn't get any bigger than that for the most part. I don't know how big RAA is now, but that's kind of an issue if you think Asian Americans should be more political given the circumstances we're up against these days.
Do you really care? I mean, I guess for me, I don't really care about mass. I don't really know if 1.9 million people going at it politically is going to be necessarily a good
49,000.
thing. What's that?
Like, is it
49,000
1.9
subscribers.
distinct
49.
individual?
They
Like
might have
1.9? That's actually
daily active
significant.
users or something.
Yeah.
That is significant.
It's a lot.
Mhm.
Keep in mind, it includes probably.
But I mean,
people from
any space
Europe.
Americans that can claim basically 2 million people, that's actually considerable considering just the
It is.
size
That's 1
of
out
the
of 10 every
population
Asian
at large.
Americans.
Yeah, and it skews younger, right? So we're
Yeah,
talking about like
that's big.
new minds and the kind of content they're absorbing about their own cultures, as Asians in the West. So
Yeah.
it
I
is
mean, it
Well,
might be
that might
good
just be-
just to avoid, because the political thing can get so heated that it might just turn a lot of people off, and it might just be better to have them.
I think that's what it is.
Not offended, but at least together in some sort of fashion.
Yeah, as
Yeah,
long as there
I'm
are
a-
pathways for people to find spaces where they can be politically activated or talk about political things, I think that's fine. If everything is constrained to this one space and like the entirety of the Asian American community and discussion and group consciousness is constrained to this one subreddit, that becomes a problem.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm a part of SubtleAsianTraits, so I'm looking at the website right now. Other than their pinned post, the first thing that pops up is this March 28th post with about Bling Empire. They have Kelly and Kane. Have you guys watched that show?
Yes.
Yes. Hi, Kevin, if you're watching. Good to see you, buddy.
Oh yeah, that's another throwback. Remember
Doesn't Kevin owe you guys money?
He probably owes me a couple of
what?
bucks here and there for drinks, but who
Yeah,
cares?
didn't he like dine and dash? Like you guys went for drinks at the
Yeah,
Nomad
I think he
Hotel and
did.
you just like left or
Yeah,
something?
he might have.
I didn't
but
know about that. Is
yeah.
that the time we went to the Nomad bar?
Yeah.
He might.
Right before
It's not a big deal.
before didn't he just announce he was going to go to LA to the shock
Yeah.
of all his friends that worked
Yeah,
with
yeah,
him?
yeah.
You're like, you
Yeah,
are?
no, and I remember us giving him advice on just like how to stay true to himself when he's going to the snake pit that is LA.
Dude,
I did.
So I actually met up with him because 2019 I went to LA a fair bunch because I was there because his documentary the Ugly Model came out, and I actually was in it for like 5 seconds. So I was like, oh, I'm gonna go and I'll see Kevin, I'll see my friend, and we'll hang out. And he actually we had lunch, and he told me that he had just sort of been cast, or he was just starting to film this reality TV show with all these really rich Asian people, and he's like, you can't tell anyone though. And then Bling Empire came out, and I'm like, that's what you were telling me about. So
I mean, what would
it's
you have
surreal. It's surreal
revealed?
watching your buddy on TV on a reality show.
Yeah, maybe I should get around to watching that. It was surprisingly well received.
It was,
It's-
and he
it's
and
a-
he is
yeah.
he is a very popular character on it as far as Twitter's concerned.
That's right.
So
That's
That's
right.
good.
And
Good for
he's
him.
on a Peloton ad now. Get that Peloton money, Kevin.
Oh, what? Really?
All right? Yeah.
Can I look it up on YouTube? If I look it up right now, would
I'm
it
sure
pop
we'll
up?
find it. Yeah.
is his husband trying to get him to lose weight, or what's the situation with the ad?
No, it's for print ad. It's a print ad, so I don't know.
Hey,
Oh,
Peloton
okay.
stock is up too.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I mean, in terms of whether, SubtleAsianTraits isn't the only game in town, no matter how large it is. So I agree, sort of, Jong, that as long as there are places where you can go and talk about this stuff, I'm not as upset, because I think RAA seemed like a bigger deal was because it was oh my God, this is the biggest space on Reddit for this.
Yeah.
But now it's like there's so many places, right? You can
No,
become a patron for our website.
No,
You can-
sure.
RA's glory days were like in the mid 2010s, and I was quite active in there for a bit before I quit, and then before they kicked me out. But now it's just kind of like a pin board
You
for
can't
various.
fire me. I quit.
Now it's just it's not relevant anymore.
Yeah, all I'm trying to point. Oh, go for it, Phil.
Go ahead. Keep in mind the difference between those two spaces, though, is that Subtle Asian Traits is a public space where you're using generally speaking, your actual identity, and
True.
RAA is
Facebook.
on Reddit, and so it's pseudonymous, right? It's like you can have an ongoing identity, but no one knows who you actually are. And so, in theory, the conversations that go on in those spaces should be very different, right? I don't know if that's actually the case anymore, or ever was, but like that should be a difference, right?
I don't think the conversations are that different. I think maybe the way positions and opinions are worded are perhaps a little bit more palatable.
Sure. Yeah.
But I think generally the conversations and the topics remain pretty much the same. Maybe the mask is a little off on Reddit.
So like surface level stuff, like entertainment, like meet the media rep crowd, light on politics, that kind of stuff.
Yeah. But really, all I was trying to point out is that from 2017, dude, like the subreddits in general were kind of like it was a little almost like people were kind of embarrassed to talk about it even and like acknowledge their existence or acknowledge their awareness of these spaces. And now it's like pretty much a given, and it's grown so much more. So my answer to the question of like what has changed since 2017, I think we've seen evidence of a growing Asian American consciousness that's really exciting and gaining a foothold as well as like legitimacy. Did we lose Jess?
Jess has been having some technical difficulties.
Yeah.
Jong,
Okay, that's
Jong,
Pogo935, what's the latest spicy comment flame wars? I'm a member, but I don't go there often, so please inform us. But
Yeah, just comment and we'll
Jong,
continue to talk.
what do you mean by a growing consciousness? Like where are you seeing that specifically?
Like I've gotten more of my friends that were not mentioning anything in 2017, specifically to Asian or Asian American issues that are coming up now. And of course you can point to like COVID and this and that, but more specifically, they're not citing New York Times, they're not citing whatever, right? They're citing NextShark, or they're sending me Instagram posts from Asians with Attitudes or whoever. And I think that's a great development. We're starting to, we kind of like, we're lamenting the lack of like any kind of cohesive online Asian Americans consciousness or space identity. And I think we're starting to see the beginning of that.
Got it. Yeah.
I mean, that's
yeah,
interesting
obviously.
that those actually are even allowed, right? Like I would think that would be sort of like the first
What?
thing that's deemed political.
Oh, you're talking about
Posts involving a white partner or spouse.
Yeah, so we're going back to SAT.
right? So
anything specific, Kelly?
well, she'll
Well,
comment.
anyway. Callie's a guy.
Oh, sorry, he'll comment. But
Reddit was
Pogo is saying that K-drama leads which, the ships.
Oh, which leads are-
K-drama, I guess that gets spicy.
Yeah, here's a
Because
good
people get
question.
invested.
What was a bigger shift for like Asian American, confidence or consciousness? Was it COVID? Was it the attacks on seniors, or was it like K-pop and K-dramas? All these different factors that like changed the way people.
I think COVID for sure was a big one because it was like it sidestepped
Jess.
this
she's back.
accusation of like, oh, you only care about your image, or like media representation was sort of was able to be kind of like dismissed because it's seen as superficial, right? Whereas like COVID or the actual or like assaults is you can't. I mean, you're just an asshole if you're going to try and tell somebody that doesn't matter. So I think that was the big thing in terms of like getting Asian Americans to feel more comfortable voicing their opinion and pushing back on what's happening. And then from there, like once you like learn that habit, it becomes easier to start talking about other things as well.
I think my observation before about this like reticence of people to go into an Asian American space, one is just like the sort of the, I think there's just a sort of a cringy ambivalence about even identifying oneself as Asian American, because it's a weird, ill-defined thing. It's purely race. It's purely racial.
Yeah.
And so to identify yourself with this almost contentless, purely racial thing is, I'm not sure what it means, you know, and I'm not sure a lot of people knew what it meant, and they wanted to avoid what it meant. And I think what it meant was that you had a lot of like racial experiences that were not good. And so when people congregated in an Asian American space, it was not a happy thing.
Like
fundamentally speaking, you might come
label of
together and
trauma.
try to make it happy and talk about shows and positive experiences or whatever. But I think underlying it, people understood deeply that the only reason I'm going into an Asian American space is not really to celebrate my, heritage or whatever. It's because, there are problems that Asian people face.
It's about
right?
unloading grievances, right? Like that.
Yeah, and I think people are not so comfortable with that because it's sort of admitting there's some sort of problem or fault here based on race. So I think that's been the problem. But I think in a way, like since COVID and now especially since the Atlanta and all the things that led up to Atlanta, which was a lot, that seems sort of besides the point now. I think everyone's and this is something that I do think is a big difference, is that people don't have as much of a problem saying like, Asian people have a lot of problems and we got to deal with that. Because before I think there was this weird like positivity spin that was always put on it to sort of avoid the idea that somehow all the Asian people ended up at the same lunch table.
Right.
Like why? Well, why did that happen? Right.
You mean like, oh, I wanted to be here.
Yeah. Did you guys really just like, and then you get together and there's all these scream fests and actually people don't really like each other that much. Right. And you're finding out like you've got a lot of disagreements. So why are you still together? Why are you still sitting at this table together?
Yeah. I mean, in a perverse way, the high profile nature of not just the Atlanta attack, but just as you said, Teen, like all the stuff in the news leading up to it and just the undeniable violence that was happening prevents people from sort of having that, like doing that positive spin reflexively, right? Like you can't ignore it anymore. It's so in your face.
but I mean, and think about it before that, right? Like before we were talking about things that everyone takes very seriously, like your grandmother getting attacked or killed.
Yeah.
No one has a problem saying, "Hey, we got to come together. Everyone's got to meet downtown. We got to do something about this shit."
No, some people have a problem saying you should do something about it. Some people definitely say,
okay. I mean, well, fuck them.
Too much about it.
I know.
Okay, but fine. Well, fuck them then. I mean, that's whatever.
Yeah.
But I'm saying, like, generally speaking, I think that it's hard to criticize people to say, "Oh, okay, they're targeting Asian people. Asian people got to do something about it." But if you rewind to several years ago or mid, 2010s or whatever. What were people gathering in places like Asian Reddit for? They felt it was dudes that were feeling like they couldn't get dates. It was women that felt like they were, being misperceived by white guys. It was a lot of shit that was like kind of loser talk in a way, if you really think about it, right? It was fundamentally a kind of a sort of like loser discourse that was fueling this. And I think that's why people were avoiding what was essentially a loser discourse. And that's always been interesting to me because you would think that people would stay the fuck away from the loser table. But everyone was like, I lurk.
But that's what
like, I don't participate, but I lurk. Because, fundamentally,
Guilty.
that's the thing
that
I think is... Yeah, I was like, I totally get what these people are saying,
Yeah, I think there was a period of years where I read every single last post from AA, Asian Identity, Eastern Sun Rising, and Asian Masculinity.
Oh my goodness!
I was in those spaces, and you read more posts than I did.
I that followed like a years-long thing. I was obsessed with the red pill for the longest time.
Jeez,
that's the most.
Spin-offs. Yeah,
that's the most interesting parts of Reddit. It's the
Yes,
it's the extreme
right.
ends. Like my favorite.
Yeah.
Well,
That
not my
is
favorite,
ugly
but
truth.
the ones I most frequent. It's like female dating strategy, Asian identity, Asian masculinity.
Is that
hot
opposition
fuzz.
research?
Grab the
Chris?
popcorn.
Well,
Is
it's
that
just I
opposition
just want to know
research,
because
female
like
dating
if you go to
strategy?
say the politics or news subreddit, that's boring as shit. Why the hell would I waste time on there? I would much rather go to something like the Red Scare Pod.
Or
That's
really
way
spicy
more
ones
interesting.
like our NBA. Isn't our NBA some of like the?
Well, I don't know. The NBA is kind of irrelevant now, I think, but yeah, I mean that's a sports dialogue that maybe Adam you and I can get
Hey,
in.
fan.
Hey, Ben.
Yeah, I mean, I think we were all interested for different reasons. Right?
John Lee brought up Brooklyn hammer
The
attacks.
Brooklyn
I think
Hammer
that's
attack.
2018.
Yeah, that was another one for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
2018,
remember that.
2019?
No, it was
2018, I think.
2019 because 2019. 'cause I
John, you
remember-
you and I remember that well because
Yeah.
Philip, were you on that one too? Like we were just.
No, John was
screaming-
definitely on the.
We were. I
John-
was on that one.
No, John
One
was very.
everyone
Anim-
remembers.
let's
Yeah,
say animated on that pod.
yeah,
I remember
John,
because
you-
I
yeah.
wasn't so.
Ray was on it. Ray was on it.
Ray.
Oh yeah, and it was like a.
We were screaming at Ray.
it was like a 4-on-1.
Ray was a good sport.
Yeah.
Oh man.
It was like, why are you so mad at Jen? Why can't this be about the hammer attacks? Why are you making this about Jen?
Yeah.
Oh,
I remember that
man.
because I was in Korea at the time, visiting my parents, and it came out and I listened to it. It was like a 2-hour episode, and yeah, it's just like one of those forgotten events that still.
Love you,
It should
Millie.
legendary episode.
She's nice.
So the message I get from all the feedback is that they like it when we yell at each other.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know-
Happy to do that.
How about
I
some
wonder
more
if that's easier or
positivity?
harder
Yeah,
for looking
Ray's
at
not
each
here to
other
defend
face to
himself. Ray's
face.
a good guy.
I think it's hard. I think it's harder. I told Ray this. I was like, it's harder to yell at you because he came to visit in New York, and we went out for
He's
dinner.
an
and I
awesome
was
guy,
like-
man.
I was like, it's hard to be mad at you like face to face. I'm not gonna yell at you face to face.
Make you hate him more? Does that bring something out in you? Because I get irrationally mad. Like I totally hate this person, and then I like meet them or get to know them in some way. And it's like, oh fuck.
And
I
they're
kinda
like a
like
nice
you
person,
now.
and it makes
Ugh.
it worse, right? Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
sometimes they're not nice. It's just you just don't have the foundations to
Oh.
build your pyramid of hate on top of. And so you're like, oh fuck, you're just kind of like a normal shitty person. Man, that
Oh
sucks.
my god.
No, he's a great guy. I think.
No, Ray's a nice
Very
guy.
nice.
Not Ray.
Yeah.
Not talking about Ray.
No, we're
Oh,
not
just
talking about
people.
Ray. But okay,
Yeah,
so let
just
me
those
just.
people,
I
yeah.
wanted to share this. I think Filip has been. There's this funny taxonomy that we wanted to share.
Okay, I will try to explain it because I made this thing.
So,
And
and he
Oh,
didn't
shit,
just
we
find
can-
it. Philip
I know.
made it.
Oh,
I
We
made
made
it,
our
yeah.
own first
I
meme.
made this. Yes,
Wow.
this is from a bunch of conversations.
God, I know exactly where I fall on this.
Baby's first meme. Okay.
Okay, this is a very
Asian
incomplete.
You're obviously the
picture.
himbo, yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Incomplete picture. There may be groups not represented here. There are groups that are purposely not represented here, like old groups that we don't really talk much about anymore, like these Reddit groups we just mentioned. But in 2021, I think what we're starting to see are a disparate bunch of different, groupings of Asian American activity online in different online spaces. And in particular, there's some that some of us are not catching right away, but we're starting to see more and more of them because they're becoming so big you can't really ignore them anymore. And I think on the topic, Tina, what you said, where people are kind of coming to dish out grievances online in around the 2016, 2017 era, there's actually more people coming online to show off their wins as opposed to their losses, right? In the Asian American space. I'll explain where. So we talked about subtle Asian traits, Boba Libs, right? People who are very apolitical. They're just there to post memes and funny, relatable things about their parents. Big group, 2 million plus people on Facebook, right? Not a small number of people. Very apolitical, but a big group. There's this group, I don't have a better name for them, but I'm calling them the Don't Give a Fuck Asians because they kind of have come on the scene, mostly the people who follow Asians with attitude. And they're interesting in two ways. One is that they are going against a lot of the stuff that the previous vanguard of Asian American kind of gatekeepers and spokespeople, like the activist types,
Self-proclaimed vanguard.
self-proclaimed vanguard and spokespeople for Asian Americans, the activists, the academics, right, who are saying stuff like, hey, we shouldn't we should be careful about, we shouldn't do anything about the violence because it could lead to anti-blackness. AWA and their cohort of folks are like organizing, local patrols of Chinatowns in New York City, in San Jose, in Oakland, and so on, right? They're actually really going against the grain. And the second way in which they're different, which is really interesting, is that they're a little bit, I don't know if I'm going to get cancer for saying this, but like they're a little bit black adjacent, right? They're like the China Mac crowd who like maybe grew up in a different class, right?
Yeah.
Than the people who are academics.
And they're on Instagram?
Yeah, and they're mostly on Instagram. This is 200,000 plus followers of
That's
this
a lot.
one group.
I have no idea where they sprang from. Yeah.
So are they adjacent to these ABGs you're talking about? Because that's what I'm thinking in my head.
Oh, which ABGs? The nerdy ones? Because I never heard of
corner. No,
ABGs.
I'm talking about it. Yeah, I'm talking. I'll get to that in a second. I'll get to that in a second. That one's interesting.
There's a big pin in that one for me.
Yeah. Jong is interested now.
Jong is skeptical about the nerdy ABG category.
But yeah, the Don't Give a Fuck Asians, they're on a bunch of different Instagram groups. AWA is a really big one. They're actually like doing direct action. They're putting people on the ground to do things like patrolling Chinatowns, protecting seniors. Very different approach than the activist approach of bitching and whining on Twitter, right? About doing too much. Okay.
Is there a lot of like Andrew Yang support among the Don't Give a Fuck Asians?
I don't know. I haven't.
No.
I wouldn't be surprised.
I wouldn't be. You have to go through their posts. I haven't seen it yet. I haven't seen it like explicitly. At all.
So they're not.
Were they hyping that movie Boogie?
They would kind of be adjacent to the main character Alfred or whatever his name is.
I got in terms of their upbringing and stuff. Okay.
Yeah.
So New York City would be pretty well repped by these people.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Okay. Next, you have the Asian tankies, who we're all kind of following some circle of that because they come in and out of our Twitter sphere. They're on Twitter. They're not big, but they're very loud. I think, Teen, you had a whole episode talking about this crew of folks, Asian Americans who are very politically activated, like much more like on the opposite end of the spectrum from the Bobalibs in terms of how political they are. Very, I wouldn't call it pro-China, but like, very anti-imperialist, all ML
they're pretty pro-China, I would say.
Okay. Yeah. Constantly telling you to
even pro-DPRK,
Pro-DPRK, yeah.
Well, okay.
I mean, I say that. Well, the reason I say that is, one, because it's true, and two, because I think people say they're not really pro-China in the sense that pro-China would be bad, or pro-DPRK would be a bad thing. And I think a big part of this is my crew, I would say, is that they're trying to question why that's assumed to be bad.
Your crew, are you saying you're the ringleader of the Asian tankies?
No, but I associate most online with the Asian tankies.
That's right. Okay, so Teen is very familiar. Go to Teen's follows and you'll see these Asian tankies out there.
Yeah.
What's interesting about them, I don't know if I would put this recently infamous Asian American Boba Kami as part of the Asian tankies. She's kind of maybe there, but like leaning more towards.
No, she's definitely not tanky.
No, okay.
I was on a Clubhouse with her and everything, and I think she gets, I think way too much focus is paid to her. But I think she's more of a standard like Asian American progressive, despite her name.
Okay. But she's
definitely not tanky.
She's a very new kind of infamous Asian American online celeb in the way that like Rainier was. What's his name? Like.
L-Egg.
Remember
him? 2017. Ago, right? That brings me back.
I think Amanda is a tanky. I mean, Amanda is tanky, I would say.
Oh yeah, that's someone's like a pretty good example. Yeah.
Is it an identity?
Of someone who be labeled that at least.
Do you have, or is it one that is
thrown at you, right?
It's imposed on you, right? I don't think anyone said I volunteered to be a tanky.
It's a loose group, right? This is not a group you join, like, you join AsianAmerican and you participate, or you join an Asian Clubhouse and you participate. This is just like you're in that kind of nether sphere of Twitter. And,
if you put you put a mango in your handle now or something. I don't know.
There's some signs of that.
Oh, is that what that was about?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe.
I just like.
I'm not really sure of the origin. Mango.
Okay. Let's get to the next
Appreciation Day or something.
Let's get to the next group, which is a very interesting group. I don't think anyone except for Chris and I are really watching these folks online. But on TikTok, there are now this crowd of Gen Z Asians, which I'm kind of calling the Clueless Asians. And they're clueless in the sense that
I don't know if that's Oh, sorry.
Okay, well, let's debate that, John, right? Because I'm calling them that because I know what you're getting at. I think that they're not aware of all the grievances that Asian Americans online have put out in spaces like Reddit and so on up until this point, because they're there in a very different fashion where they're constantly just celebrating their wins. So you have kind of two subgroups that I would call out. One is the Asian Himbos, the Asian male Himbos.
Mhm.
These are
That's definitely a new group.
Definitely a new group. These are very superficial guys that have insane followings. In this case, this guy here, I can't see his name, Double J 2046, 240,000 followers. Okay, not all Asian, like a mix of people. He's a Taiwanese guy whose like whole thing is that he has really good hair, and he spends like all of his
even in that little circle.
Even in that little circle, yeah. Just doing like, selfie, like, I don't know what you call them, but he does these things where he spends a lot of time talking about like how he wasn't liked back in, people like him weren't liked back in the 90s, but now people like him are like super, fetishized and whatnot today. So there is some self-awareness, I think, of like what Asian guys have dealt with back in the day versus now. But he's very much so like super like, cocky, brash, that kind of
He's the
personality.
anti-stereotype.
Yeah, he is, and it's not just him. It's like there's like probably dozens of these guys who have 50,000 to 200,000 plus followers of all sorts of people, men and women, a lot of women, I think, all sorts of races. It's crazy. Like it's something that like you'd look at as an Asian millennial and be like, I cannot imagine this existed or this exists.
It's our Asian masculinity dream right there.
It is. That's
their project.
Pretty much.
And RAM is now talking about these guys quite a bit.
Yeah.
Has he ever done a meme where it was like, if you didn't love me at my worst,
you don't deserve me at my
in the
best.
90s. You don't get to love me in the 2020s.
This guy has a bunch of like characters that he does in his TikToks where he'll like put on a different outfit and change his hair up a little bit. And he has like a 90s nerd, like that's one of his characters, like a 90s nerd.
I'm actually curious about this.
I'm down with that.
You should check him out. It's pretty funny.
Okay.
Okay, and then on the other side,
don't beat up Asian grandmas, fight me instead.
Okay. Hey.
Wait, so did Manny like rip that off of the himbo? Manny Pacquiao?
I don't think so.
Oh, did Manny Pacquiao say that?
It's the same energy. It's the same energy.
He did. Okay. I've seen that sentiment floating around before Pacquiao just came out. I think, of course,
Pacquiao's ripping off the himbos.
All right.
Oh wow.
Pacquiao's trying to get relevant.
Wait, what did Pacquiao do?
Okay.
He had this.
He did
released
rip
a
off
meme
the
saying,
himbos.
"Don't stop. Fight me instead. Stop Asian hate."
That's right.
All right.
Wait, but what does that have to do with the himbos?
They said it.
No, he's
first,
saying that
and
himbos
then
were using
Manny
that.
Pacquiao copied
Oh, okay.
Oh,
if you don't,
that kind of tells me that Manny
words,
Pacquiao is on TikTok. That's what that tells me.
you're gonna have to fight me instead of Asian grandma at my best.
Yeah, so like
But here's
2019, 2020 was like the shirtless vanity selfies, with the muscles and the gym routines, and then late 2020, 2021 it slides into you're gonna catch some heat if you fuck with my grandma.
You're gonna catch these these hands.
These muscles aren't just for show.
Pogo,
these muscles are for show.
Pogo 935 hit the nail on its head. Choose your Asian guy is literally a meme on TikTok.
Oh yeah, that's a trend.
Damn.
Yeah, and it's just like guys coming out
your
like being different types of like like buff Asian, like Korean, like suave Korean, fuckboy, like shit like that. I don't know. I'm too old for this shit, right? We're just Chris and I are observing this online. It's really funny and it's different.
A couple of things there. First of all, Pacquiao, did he ever think he's a himbo? I don't know.
I don't think so. I don't know. But
I think
that is funny though.
I mean, he's taken a lot of punches to the head, but I don't think he ever thought he was like a pretty boy or anything.
No.
I told you I was at the airport.
Are you going to
with
say
him
that
once.
to his face?
No.
Are you going to say that to his face?
Hell no.
See? So that's the difference.
I think he's more of a daddy type, probably.
But he's like
say that to his face.
Oh no.
All right, so then the next one is the nerdy ABGs, which I feel like
what is a nerdy ABG?
Okay, so the nerdy ABG.
But this is a fantasy of yours that you just put it on here.
No, it's a real thing. It's a real. I don't know. Maybe it is because I have a lot of them on my feed now. But it's another clueless Gen Z Asian group. They're definitely Gen Z. These are girls that are like playing Valorant. They're playing League. They're playing what is it?
Genshin?
No, not really. Actually, it's a lot of Valorant. I noticed there's a lot of like Asian American, Korean Valorant players that have their own Twitch streams and so on.
What
They're
the hell's
definitely
Valorant?
It's like
Is it like Genshin?
Oh no, it's like
it's a new Counter-Strike. It's a new Counter-Strike.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
it's like
Yeah.
Overwatch and
Yeah,
Which is true.
Overwatch and Counter-Strike kind of mixed together. People
It's
are going to
competitive hero
Is this adjacent to like weeaboo activity?
Not really. It's
Okay.
so they're into two things, right? They're into anime, and they're into video games.
It's like
Yeah.
gamer
They-
culture.
they
It's
have-
adjacent.
But these are
And
real
It's
fighters.
adjacent. It smells like
There's a lot of overlap.
Yeah, there's a lot of overlap. They're into those things, but they're proud about it. They have an entire, Twitch stream or TikTok account with massive number of followers on this topic. They're like attractive ABGs, as you expect from ABGs. It's not a nerdy thing. Like they don't look nerdy. They often have, in the background of their videos, their Asian boyfriend also playing League or something, as part of their whole shtick. And there's a whole massive group of them as well, right? And they're
Okay.
very much so.
This sounds more California than New York City.
It is very California.
Yeah,
I
I
think
was
Yeah.
going to say.
it's like enclave life, right? But they have a
Yeah.
massive presence on
Uh-huh.
TikTok as well, and quite a few followers too. Definitely noticed that. And then
And it's not ABG the way it used to mean, where it actually was
Yeah.
like it had a political component to that. I saw that a lot growing up in the 90s in California. If you were an ABG from that era, or generally slightly before, this was very much politically driven, like anti-establishment, very much just outright saying anti-white assimilation, all that stuff, and that just percolated down over the years into an aesthetic. So
Yeah, I mean, I always
big,
thought of
hair, makeup, all of that.
I always thought of ABG
But now it's
as
kinda like a
connected to the
middle-class
import
thing.
scene and stuff, right?
Yeah,
The hot import nights girls. And
No,
their
I would-
boyfriends.
yeah, which is
personally,
already
I've-
like one generation
Which is-
removed
yeah.
from like the I guess the proto ABGs, the Asians of like the 60s and 70s who grew up in like working class neighborhoods in
Well, I feel like-
California.
Yeah, I
who
feel
were
like all
more
the
like-
OG ABGs went and got their real estate license, and they're
No,
all
they-
realtors now.
Yeah, a lot of them did actually. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
I would put them with the don't give a fuck Asians. To me,
Okay.
an ABG is rolling with the don't give a fuck crowd.
Mm.
Yeah,
Oh.
yeah, that
Yeah.
makes sense to me.
That's not
That
to say that
definitely makes sense
ABGs
to me.
aren't,
That's
But
what
what's
they're-
the
that's
But
what
I
but
they're
think
doing
Jong,
on
what
the
is the
Instagram.
prime
makes more sense
economic
where it is right
activity
now
of the
because-
What? Hold on. What?
What's the primary economic activity of the don't give a fuck Asians now?
Economic
do for-
activity?
Yeah, what do they
GoFundMes.
do for a living?
GoFundMes.
Oh,
Wait,
okay.
you mean like the organizations? Like
No, never mind.
the I don't know.
Well,
The
It's a lot
Asians
of
with
people who are
attitudes.
close to
I won't take a
entertainment,
guess.
I think. So it's a bunch of people who are, small, like maybe small time influencers, media creators,
Okay.
maybe trying to get into
streamers and
entertainment,
stuff, too.
Definitely the ones
streamers,
that
yeah,
have-
people who
that
just
have,
have
like,
a
If they have a popular Twitch stream and they have a popular TikTok, they're definitely in that, like, I'm trying to become an influencer in the nerd space. Maybe I'll get picked up as a esports rep or something like that, right?
Mhm.
Like
I see.
that kind of world, right? Very unclear.
yeah, but
Back in the day, they
Our-
might be, they would have like
our
they would
stairs-
have like a store that sells like rims.
Back in the day.
Yeah, like dubs and
Or
spoilers
like,
and
yeah,
maybe
exhaust
like
kits.
skateboard decks and stuff.
Yeah.
Right? Like
Yeah.
maybe a skate.
I don't
shop.
know if they
What
did
were you saying?
skateboards. It was all like either superbike stuff or attaching a spoiler to your Civic.
Okay.
All I'm
okay.
saying is that they have evolved since then. They are now the nerdy ABGs, and this is not even their final form. So hold on.
Jess,
Hold on
Jess,
for the
you were
next
saying
There's
something?
another. Well, that fits in with the anime interest, right? There's always another power.
no, I'm
I mean,
Power
Yeah,
scale.
that's true.
Philip, this is new. This is like you're mapping out new shit. You're like
Yeah,
the
dude,
James
this is
T.
like-
Kirk of
So,
Asians
We-
online.
no, we're more like this is what Wong Fu does, but now we're doing it because we're trying to make money now.
But I will say, like,
No, roll
there
it
are
back.
certain
Take that
things.
back.
There are certain new
Yeah,
things
Alex
coming up on
Perez
these.
there. A 90s ABG would cut a
Yeah,
bitch.
You can
It's
say
that is
that,
that
yeah.
is exactly it.
yeah.
Yeah. I don't think that's I don't think you could say the same thing now. Now it's girls in the suburbs
Well, and that's why I think
who
the
are
nerdy ABG
wearing like
thing
hoop
sort of
earrings and
works.
shit.
Yeah, but that nerdy ABG sort of works where Philip put it because it's not about the political aspect of an ABG. It's
For
just
sure.
the
I
aesthetic,
can see that.
right?
I can see that.
So
I
yeah,
recognize that. That's something I have to come to terms with.
right.
Yeah.
yeah.
But
Yeah.
I am gonna push. I am gonna
Alright.
push back on this clueless part. I don't think that they're clueless. I think the fact that I think what they're doing is they're using the medium the way it's intended to be used.
They're pretty
well,
clueless.
Pogo thinks they're clueless. I don't think so. I think I think they may not have like a deep understanding or a deep, they may not have done a deep analysis. But I think what they're doing is they're packaging up things that like disseminate down to them, and they understand the core points, and they're trying to spread the awareness, right? You always need like a bite-sized, easily digestible piece of information, right? And that's what they do.
You're
right?
very
And
sympathetic to this crew.
I am. I think calling them clueless is like too far, because they're clearly paying attention, right?
Right.
They're taking the time to create content, and they're doing this because the number one call to action is spread awareness. Tell people.
Okay,
about
so
it.
that's
have
your
conversations.
that's your star.
Okay, Philip, you said that
Let's give credit
there
where
were
it's due.
okay, but Philip, at the beginning of your thing, you did say that there is this lack of awareness among a lot of these people that a lot of things they're saying. Like when I was first going online, in the Tumblr days and stuff, it's the same shit. It's like the Asian activist types always calling out anti-blackness among their peers and all that. So the concern I have with them is that I've seen this, and I remember the big people on like Tumblr with the big followings. Like, where are they now? They didn't advance much. I mean, they have whatever they did, and now they're moving on with their lives. And a lot of these people just seem to be, instead of building on that, are just doing the same things, getting into the same petty squabbles and all that. So it is interesting, the totally new things. I think the Asian male himbo is definitely a new development that is just interesting to see, because there's no precedent for it. But the more of the mainstream activism you see on TikTok, it's all old shit. We've seen it since like the mid 2000s. So
I've been saying this. I've been saying this a while though. Is that like every single time, every new space, every new community, like we've seen so many come and go, and every single time that is a common complaint, right? That like the same stuff has to be rehashed. And I don't know. My working theory is that like you're going to have that because every single year there's a new cohort of individuals who are starting to face these issues and start to learn about it, right? It's not a strictly linear path, but you're always going to have people that are getting introduced to it, right?
Yeah, but my point is, why can't they? All right, go ahead, Jong, and I'll
I think
up.
I know your question, which is like, why isn't there more of sort of like a continuous development of culture, or a continuous development of this intellectual process, I guess you could call it, right? I think it's because there's a disconnect between like what previous generations have already figured out and what the current generation is figuring out. So much of like the question, at least for me personally, a lot of the questions I brought up was like, oh, don't worry about it. Just focus on, achieving economic success or social success in one way, and it won't be an issue for you, right? Whereas like other communities will say like, yeah, we need to do that, but also this is our history, and this is like, frankly, what we've been dealing with. Let's not sugarcoat it. And it may be an issue for you too. So here are the strategies that we've developed to work with that or work around it.
Yeah, but I'm not even talking about generations. I'm talking about just like a span of a few years. And I think one of the issues is that the stuff that people leave behind is very ephemeral. Like Tumblr, I don't even say there was like a very popular Tumblr post in 2010. I don't even know how to access that. And I think one of the things that is good about Plan A is that we left behind something kind of old-fashioned, which is articles. Like there's stuff we wrote in 2017 that will still pop up on Google as one of the top hits. And I think that is valuable because hopefully someone can see that and not go through the same process all over again. But they can, just like use that as a stepping ladder. And that's one thing I fear about TikTok, because it's like cotton candy. You digest, you eat it, it disappears in your mouth. It kind of tastes good, but it's gone. And
but the seed is planted.
Hopefully, I really hope so. Because
I can work in conjunction. I think one of the good things about what we did with articles and stuff was, and to an extent podcasts, is like I don't think we ever really focused on personality building or like brand building, because before it was like Wong Fu or the Fung Bros, and it would be like tightly associated with a personality, and that personality, or even Eddie Huang, and those personalities can go stale very quickly. And then it's like, even if you did leave a lot of stuff behind, crumbs, so to speak, like people won't pick it up anymore because it's like, the personality that's associated with it may be outdated. But if you write articles and stuff or stuff like not as heavily associated with personalities, I think it's better.
Yeah. Speaking of stale, I watched Boogie. That movie fucking sucks. It's
That's I heard. Yeah.
I don't even want to watch it. I mean, it looks so bad.
Let's listen to our pod. Yeah.
Yeah, Unverified
Yeah, but-
Accounts. We did a review of it, but no, Tina, I think you're right. I think one of the strengths of Plan A was that we didn't really associate this with our careers. We had this wasn't something we did because we wanted to make money, or we wanted to. It's not like that.
We
we
actually
just did
expected
it
to
because.
be hated for this.
Hmm?
We expected to be hated for this.
That's true.
John, did you just spark up a spliff, man?
He did.
Is this not family?
No. I'm just wondering.
actually,
just
we're
wondering
just
if you're
jealous.
going. No, we're just wondering if you're going organic, or is that some sort of vape device?
Oh no,
It's very
this-
technological
this is a
out there. Oh, old
joint.
school.
This is a joint.
Actually, Jong, I want to address
We're,
that. I
we're
think
hitting the 1 hour mark. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Jong, I want to get to that. What you said about being hated. I think that's something that Asian Americans really have to be prepared to do, because before I did Plan A, I've never experienced a thing, being called all sorts of names or being canceled by this group or that. But since we started Plan A, I've become quite used to it. I think we've all become quite used to it. And I think that's very valuable. I think that is, at this point in our culture, if you haven't gotten some threat of being canceled, you're not doing it right. You're not saying anything interesting. You're not saying anything worth saying. And I think a lot of Asian Americans are just petrified of that. And it is something you have to practice. It is something it's like if you're fighting, you gotta get punched a few times in the face to realize it's not gonna kill you. Yeah, you might bleed a little, but it's not gonna kill you. And I hope that all of our experience here has prepared us for, kind of like the next thing, whatever. And things are just getting more and more dicier in American society, especially with regards to Asian Americans. And we can't just hide behind this solidarity, weak sauce kind of thing. As good as that sentiment is, at a certain point, your interests are going to collide with others. And are you going to be able to stick up for yourself? And I think a lot of Asian Americans aren't, and you need practice to do that.
Yeah,
that's why maybe the Tankies and the Don't Give a Fuck like AWA Asians are the most interesting of this new online Asians, because they're getting practice doing really radical stuff as compared to Asians even 4 years ago.
Well,
Right.
But see, I think
I
the
think
barrier to
they've been
entry is so
doing-
much lower these days.
What,
I
because you
mean,
just put
say
shit
your
online,
piece.
like-
It takes, now all it takes to be controversial is, how about we not nuke China? That's somehow like a super controversial take. Like it's going to take more effort to be non-political and just status quo, when status quo is, how about we go nuke China? Like
True.
say your piece at this point. What's holding you back now?
Yeah. It's like you got to
Like literally saying, how about we don't try to genocide people? That's somehow,
right.
oh, well, this is political now.
Yeah, it's like it helps to realize, like you said, Jess, like when the mainstream opinion is we're going to go to war with the country, or we're just going to nuke a country, and you're the crazy one to say, hey, let's pump the brakes, let's not do that. You got to realize how absurd that is. Right? And just go ahead.
Or even
and say
something
it.
as so simple as, like, can we not think of 1.4 billion people as the enemy?
Yeah, well, just a little more, which is just
And
as
you get
bad.
but the thing is, like, you get shit on for that.
Oh no,
that.
yeah. That statement's good. Yeah.
And they start calling you a agent.
You're a genocide denier.
There's a fucking ex-general on Twitter calling me
a
an
genocide
agent of the
denier?
CCP. Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I mean, it's a crazy fucking.
Was he dishonorably discharged? Why is he an ex-general?
I don't know.
Oh, you were tired,
He
maybe.
writes books and tired or something. He's infamous on Twitter for being a
really?
xenophobe.
Oh, Alex Perez, he just there was a comment. He said we help spread the term Bobaliberal. I have mixed feelings with that, because like Bobaliberal just means everything these days. I have no idea what it's supposed to mean. I have to find out who is saying it to try to deduce what they're
What
meaning.
they mean by it.
Yeah,
It
become
doesn't mean anything. It's a
Asian-
resentment.
It's like non-right-wing Asian Americans you don't like. That's my
It's a
understanding of it.
resentment. It's a class resentment. I like the term specifically because it doesn't mean anything. It's an expression of like a certain class resentment. It's like there's a group of Asian elite assholes that I don't like, and that's
Is it like,
it's
okay,
whoever I
boomer?
say it is.
Like, okay, boomer.
Yeah, kind of.
Okay, Boba Lib.
Yeah, I think that's fine.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's good in a way.
I wonder if anyone calls us that.
Sure.
I'm sure they do.
I've been called Bobaliberal online.
Oh, really?
I'm sure
Yeah.
they do. Yeah. I mean, the definition you put up, Chris, saying that it's just people that are not right wing that you don't like.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure
Yeah,
we're
well-
not right wing, and I'm sure people don't like us. So
Oh, yeah.
yeah, I would
We
be
got our
surprised
enemies.
if we
Okay,
weren't
like
called
I think
Bobaliberal.
in one week on Twitter, and I don't have a particularly spicy Twitter feed or anything. In 1 week, same person, I was called ultra nationalist, ethno nationalist, Boba liberal, assimilationist, sellout, a tankie, and a Democrat. So these
You've got range, Jess. You just got like
Yeah, I mean, so
I
everyone
I
hates
know
you. That's
it's
good.
amazing. It's amazing what I can do in 180 characters. And they weren't. It wasn't even like an insult. They were just like oh, I have captured what you are. You are an ethno nationalist, Boba liberal, assimilationist sellout. Oh, okay, cool. So it doesn't. It's not. It doesn't mean anything. It means like Chris, you're saying like it's entirely where you are. It's just an indicator of where you are in someone else's political compass.
Yeah, well, I think Callie has a great comment here. It says, "Ever notice anyone to your left is a tankie, and anyone to your right is a Boba lib?"
Exactly.
I guess that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
That's it. Yeah, that's
I
it.
like that
So,
because at least it
like,
gives a little
Tankie,
directional structure
Boba
orientation to
Yeah.
Asian Americans, right? Like you realize there's different perspectives. There's people they differ from you, and you may not like them very much. So you call them fucking tankies or you call them Boba libs. I just think it's good that I guess what I'm saying one thing I will say that I learned over the past 4 years is that racial solidarity is not a good idea. I don't think the end goal is like all Asians come together. And I think a lot of like the conversations online, there was a lot of fighting because there's this assumption held by everyone that the ultimate goal here is for all Asians to finally agree what our common agenda is, come together, and then we finally do the Asian thing that we're supposed to do.
Because
That's not what's going to happen. It's not what's going to happen.
That's predicated on power coming from numbers, right? Like a lot of the discussion is like, we're only 13% of the population. How can we expect politicians to cater to us,
I think it's built on this assumption that just by our racial connection, because we're experiencing discrimination of a certain kind, or we have a history of a certain kind, that means that we should overcome all our differences and come together. But it's not going to happen. I think there's two, and that's not necessarily a bad thing.
No, I completely agree, because I think a lot of oh, Jong, you want to say something?
I'm not saying that it's an assumption. I'm saying it's a proposal that, like,
it's a bad
some
one.
people. Okay, maybe, but I'm just saying, like, there is a basis for the proposal. Which
Yes, there is a basis
for
for
a
it.
strategy.
And I think not only is there a basis for it, but it's also, I think, one of the reasons why there's so much fucking infighting online is because we won't let go of the idea that, hey, I just don't fucking like these people. I don't like these blue check people. I don't like what they're saying. They're not on my side. I don't want to find solidarity with them. I want to say fuck you to them. And that's fine. And people use that against you. Say, oh, you're not being a very good Asian. This is going against this idea of solidarity. Well, fuck solidarity if that's the case. I don't want to have solidarity with certain people. Because
there's different ways of like saying, fuck this person, right? There's like fuck this person. I don't care what they have to say. And then there's
I'm opposed to what they have to say.
I'm going to do whatever I need to do I want to like interrupt them. I want to disrupt their goal.
I think a lot of what we've tried to do is fundamentally that. We've spent a lot more time bashing other Asian people than we ever have, any other group of people. We don't go on, we don't go on podcasts criticizing a lot of white people or black people, like specifically. It's usually calling out other Asian people. And I don't have a problem with that.
But I don't think we gatekeep.
Well, we don't have the power yet.
No, we don't. But we also we just
Chris is like waiting for that day.
But I'm saying we do it for a reason. It's not. We're not doing it because like, we're trying to get clout and we want to like push these people out and take their place and eat their market or whatever. We don't give a fuck about that. It's because there's a lot of people who say stuff we just disagree with.
Let me ask you something.
I guess what I'm saying is like solidarity. Sorry, Phil. There's just solidarity to me. I think when I think about like needing solidarity, I don't think about the blue check crowd. I think about like you and me and the other people I see in my neighborhood when I'm walking around on the street, and when some fucked up shit, like that. And I think that's maybe perhaps where I'm getting hung up.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Well, that's my point, is that we won't find solidarity monolithically, but I think we will find that there is some sort of fundamental like class difference or something that's starting to emerge that's more closely aligned with class, intra-racial class than pure class, like solidarity with other Asians of a certain class identity that doesn't necessarily automatically jump a racial barrier and suddenly I'm in with like working class whites too.
Yeah.
I think that's definitely something I've been noticing is there's this huge gap in mindset, and it's frustrating as fuck to me because like it's always there is an elite liberal mindset that's dominant in media, and it's always fucking yelling at people. It's always like just yelling at people, like Asian people need to do this, Asian people need to do that, you got to check your this, check your that. And I'm like, God damn, why do we have to do so much shit?
Yeah, one of the things we've learned since doing Plan A is like we call them blue checks. They don't necessarily have to have a blue check. It's a mindset, but they have more in common with each other than they do have with their purported communities. And I think the cause of all this frustration is the fact that we either expect them to represent us or they are put in a position to represent us. And I think once you sever that, once we realize we don't have anything to do with you, you don't have anything to do with us, and we can just kind of do our own thing, I think that would solve at least like 75% of the problem. I think the problem is these people are imposed upon us to speak for us. They talk down to us. They speak about us. They barely, if ever, deign to talk to us. Yet we're supposed to have some kind of solidarity with these people, and we don't. And I think that's exactly the problem. And as I think time progresses, we realize, hey, there are certain like the racial group thing to a certain extent. Yeah, you have common experiences. You will get called a chink if you look a certain way, but that's not the totality of how you identify. And there are divisions within your own racial group, and we saw this. Especially when the Asian attacks started, because there was one class of Asians that were bearing the brunt of most of the attacks, namely lower class Asians. And there was only the other class, which are the kind of like media class, academic class Asians, who acted as if they were the ones getting attacked. No, like you write for the fucking New Yorker, you're a professor at Columbia, you're not as under a bigger threat as some kind of Asian living in like Chinatown or wherever. Yet those are the people who get to talk about us. And I thought the attacks it highlighted that divide very, very much.
Now that we're back to the chart, what about this?
I'm going to argue that we
Filip,
actually
did you share the chart yet again?
No, you showed it again. I can talk about the last. I can talk about
Jess.
Right. But what did Jess?
Go
What were you saying, Jess?
Go ahead, Jess. Sorry.
I'm saying, I like Teen. You're talking about. You're saying, like this level of solidarity is not going to be achieved and is a pie in the sky ideal. I agree, and I'm actually okay with entirely the solidarity we've been seeing. I'm very happy with that. Where by and large, at least our bottom line is don't kill grandma. Right.
Mm-hmm.
I think we've seen a lot of unity and, dare I say it, solidarity over that. That's good enough. Honestly. I mean, I don't think solidarity is a, well, see, I think this, but I think for solidarity, it's all about that lower bar, right? Upper bar solidarity, where everyone is supposed to feel equally connected to everyone else with a certain like genetic background. That's the unattainable ideal, right? That level of solidarity means that this taxonomy of Asians is collapsed down.
Especially in America.
Especially in America. Yeah. So I think it's all about where that bottom bar is. And I think a lot of the times there has been a lot of anxiety among Asian Americans because we don't know where that lower bar is. Like we talk a lot about, like workplace antagonisms from other people of your racial background, like not being able to count on that kind of solidarity with a real sense of disappointment. And, looking back with a different, from the perspective of 2020, I feel like what we're actually saying is, I don't know to what extent I can trust this person, right? This other person. That society, everything says I should be able to trust this person more than I should trust other kinds of people. And the frustration is we can't count on that. We have a very solid test case right now. What we can count on apparently we can come together pretty uniformly, pretty strongly to define at least this low bar.
something.
Attacking
It's
our
something.
seniors is out of bounds. We're not gonna let that happen. We're not gonna sit down and just take it. We're not gonna find justifications to let this happen. There's gonna be at least we can rally around that. Yeah,
I will say that is a certain view that has overcome another view, which was quite dismissive of violence against Asians. And I'm thinking about a lot of people who have always said that, you know, these attacks against the violence against Asian or whatever, it's nothing compared to the discrimination felt by other groups or whatever. And I remember, and I was tweeting this. I was kind of being an asshole about it because it just pissed me off so much. But like the videos that were coming out of, you know, like that woman, the older Filipino woman that just got stomped like on the street in 43rd Street in New York City. And I took something from the Time to Say Goodbye pod, where Tammy Kim, who's one of the co-hosts, was saying, and this is back in June, saying that, you know, when she started hearing all these Asian people talking about the violence against us, she was like, my first thought was, is this really such a big deal? Like, I know that's really, that's
the
probably
most important thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Is this the most
important
important thing right now? Like, we're dealing with COVID, we're dealing with all this shit. Like, is that the thing that we're going to focus on? And she said, you know, and she even said, like, I know that's really insensitive to the people who are suffering that, but on the other hand, and I forgot, the other hand didn't make any sense to me. It was something about how Asians will take it too far, or they'll be performative about, you know, whatever. That was a common view. And, you know, like it took, you know, videos of like old people getting killed, I think, to finally get people to shut the fuck up, because obviously one of the big problems was the killers weren't always white, and that made a lot of that crowd very uncomfortable. They didn't know what to say about that, so they said they would prefer just not to talk about it, you know. So
yeah, what's up, Trevor?
Trevor.
He's a fan of your.
Sharks.
He's a fan of your. It's not a flow chart exactly, but your whatever you would call that.
Taxonomy.
Yeah, I mean,
star chart.
The taxonomy.
Yeah, the taxonomy. But yeah, I mean, it does seem right. I mean, obviously, it seems like, oh my God, it's a low bar to just be like, don't kill us, right? Or to have a solidarity or an agreement that killing grandma and grandpa is bad. But I think you have to, from the context of like, it wasn't even agreed upon, and some people might not even still agree upon it. We got to build from somewhere, and it sort of, I can understand where you're coming from. That like, oh, it seems sad. This is where you got to start, but it's something to start from. So you know.
I think it's still an inconvenient. No, I think it. No, I don't think it's anything. I mean, I'm not trying to. I agree with what you're saying. It is something to build on, but I think that still fundamentally there is there's an elite academic class that would rather this not be the thing that we're dealing with.
I think the response, the actual like on the ground response. I'm talking about people marching, people setting up patrols, all of that shit. The grassroots stuff, the volume and uniform, the uniformity of that response by people compared to the people in academia and the social media class. Shows that this media class did not represent to any representative degree the median sentiments of Asian Americans. So I think this is just exposing just how disconnected from reality that our 1% is from the mood of the rest. So I don't know. I mean, I'm pretty happy with that development. Saying we need to build on top of that. I don't know. What do we need to build on top of that? We're setting a bottom line saying don't attack us, don't fuck with us, don't mess with us. Isn't that it?
But can we get to some sort of like agreement
do we
on
need
other
more
topics more advanced than that? Like affirmative action, or how we should talk about China, or other issues that relate to all Asian Americans? Like, is it as low as like don't kill grandma and that's it? That's all we can do?
Yeah, I'm not even sure it's really about issues. Like, I don't know if it's. I think the model, it's the summit model that I think JCK was referring to.
Yeah,
like the summit Asian, where the idea is like we get enough like diverse representation into like you know I don't know, a fucking hotel conference room, and we just sort it out. Like what's the agenda? How do we do it? How, you know, what is our flagship agenda? How do we get everyone on board, etc.? And I'm not really sure that that's the issue, because like, I mean, let's even take affirmative action. I think like the way University of Texas does affirmative action is a very different thing than the way Harvard does affirmative action. And I don't think UT pisses people off, Asian people off, quite the same way Harvard pisses people off, right? And so I think even with something like affirmative action, it's just very complicated. It's not a binary issue. You know, depending on what particular school and what particular issue, it's gonna fall one way or another. I think the key, instead of issues, for me personally anyway, the way I see it, is just like, I think a lot of Asian people, we just get there's just a lot of people who will tell you what you're supposed to think and what you're supposed to say, and if you don't fall in line, you will fucking get ripped on mercilessly by everyone. White people, Asian people, black people, like everyone has an opinion as to what, especially Asian people will bust on other Asian people and put you in line. And I think that there's just a strong, very, very strong normative function that is applied to Asian people that we apply to ourselves as to what is the right or wrong way to think. I mean, think about every issue is framed as to like what the politically correct, coalitionally responsible thing is. You're not even really encouraged to think about the issue. You're not really encouraged to, dig deeper and look into the actual underlying, a law that is applied in affirmative. I'm taking affirmative action because that's the one that gets a lot of lectures. Asian people get a lot of lectures. But there's no encouragement for people to dig into the actual case law, into the actual facts that were uncovered in discovery. No, it's just like, stay away from the issue. You either fall on the side of being pro-affirmative action, or you're a bad coalitional member. And it's a lot of like gatekeeping. Like, don't even come near the issue. Don't even think about it. Don't form your own opinion. Don't think. And I think that's what it is. It's not so much, can we come together and believe, agree to the master agenda for all Asians. It's like, can we even allow and encourage Asian people to think for themselves? That's been very difficult. It's
just a general disdain for the rest of the population, right? Someone like Thomas Frank writes a lot about this. It's a very like elitist liberal mindset. We know better, and we better not. We
don't have the data.
Riff-raff. Yeah, and we saw that. What's that guy? I think it was Cary Chao. I don't know if it was his thing that he was on his Instagram stories, or if he was screenshotting it, but he was like, listen, my Asian brethren,
it doesn't really matter if he wrote it or not.
Yeah, like, you better show up for what's his name, Dante, who was the poor guy who was killed by the Minnesota, Dante something, but he's like, you better show up for these rallies, or basically you're scum. He's like, who said they're not showing up for this? I mean, we saw it in 2020. Lots of Asians were out there supporting those marches as we should have, and it's just like, who's this for? Like, who are you talking about? It's just and it's just disdain for their own community that they're supposedly supposed to represent.
Yeah, I mean, it makes me think.
Dante Wright, yeah, thank you, Pino Ranger.
Yeah, Dante Wright. So Cary Chao wrote this tweet. It said, "To my Asian brethren, for those rightfully screaming about the surge of anti-Asian hate, you better be screaming just as loud to what's happened to Dante Wright, to Karan Nazario, to the many more victims who weren't caught on camera. If you're not, then you're not rallying against racism. You're rallying against Asian hate, and that ain't enough. These incidents are mostly about individual racism. They could be. These incidents are mostly not about individual racism. They could be, but the story is more about a complicated historical system that treats Black lives as expendable. Hashtag BLM." First of all, I think it's kind of bullshit that it's like ends with hashtag BLM, given all of like the fucked up shit that has been revealed about BLM as like a formal incorporated movement. So this is, in my opinion, like, just to see the hashtag BLM from a guy like Cary Chao is like, I don't really think he's been following it as closely as he claims to be. And it just takes on this bullying tone of like, you're not enough. You're not allowed to do this unless you do that. You think you know, but you don't know. It's a lot more complicated. And I'm just like, you know, there was like this Bangladesh. I just linked this like this Bangladeshi family that had their restaurant burned to the ground during the anti-police protests I'll call them protests in Minneapolis, and they said, "Fine, I'm fine with this." Like, what more do you want from people?
Right. That
Like,
was
that was one of the saddest things I've seen. This
and that
guy.
was the only time that's happened.
No,
There have been other.
That wasn't the only time.
instances.
There was a Korean guy
Yeah.
that had his store, his clothing store destroyed,
Right.
and he didn't have a
During the
one
BLM
negative thing to say
protesting.
about
Yep.
BLM. So what the fuck is Cary Chao talking about? What the fuck are you talking about?
It's like
I'll tell you what he's talking about. He wants to build his brand because he works for ESPN. He wants to build his brand as the good. Yeah, he's a ESPN asshole. He wants to build his brand as, you know, a pro BLM, the pro BLM Asian guy that's woke to the issues. Now that's fine. That's good. I mean, I support his politics on this, but there's something so blatantly throwing Asian people under the bus to draw this straw man of the anti-black Asian that doesn't fucking exist in the things that I've seen. I mean, yes, there's anti-blackness among Asians for sure. Okay. But like, why is this coming up? Why is it not the Asian people who had their shit burned down and said, I still support the movement? Why doesn't that fucking count? You know, so this is the kind of thing that really sets me on edge when I hear about it. Cause it's just like, Jesus Christ, there are people who have literally lost their fucking livelihood. You are trying to further your career on ESPN. Fuck you. That's the kind of thing that to me is like fuck solidarity in the end. That's the thing I can't bridge and I won't bridge.
Yeah. Speaking of advanced, Adam, if I click share, will it?
You can share your screen and then I can add it. Yep.
All right. I will share screen. All right, Jong, you can talk.
Justine, is it you that's breaking solidarity, or is it them that's breaking solidarity?
No, it just doesn't exist. It's like these people are they're a fundamentally different character. They are totally. They think of Asian people in a certain way. They think of Asian people like usually. I think here's the thing.
All right, well,
we think of Asian people as other people, basically just like ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and I think that the problem with the Cary Chaos of the world, which is more like of this elite Asian class, tend to because they see other Asian peoples like they see themselves. They see other Asians as sort of self-interested, motivated strivers, and you know they know that there's a selfishness to them, and they I think ultimately view other Asians as a sort of competition. You know what I mean? Okay. And so there's an immediate like sharp elbows kind of thing. It kind of goes, Chris, like to what you and Jess were talking about in that in the last pod about the overproduction of elites and how that becomes like a culture of sharp elbows because there's just not enough to go around for that everyone. Mm-hmm. And that's why you see this. That was a sharp elbowed kind of tweet. Like, I'm Cary Chao. I've got the fucking, I get the fuck out of my way. Okay. You're not good enough. Fuck you. You're anti-black. Whatever.
Here's the question.
Let me grab the mic.
Is 80% solidarity enough? I mean, okay, that's not technically solidarity, but like, is 80% enough? Is 70% enough?
As long as there's an understanding that I'm not saying that the opposite of no solidarity is. The opposite of solidarity is every man for himself, and we don't give a fuck about each other. I'm just saying that there is never going to be 100% solidarity. It's going to boil down to, I think.
Of course, okay. I mean, that's an easy statement to agree with, I think. But I think
it won't. There's no such thing as block. There's no block solidarity, right? Like, if there's solidarity, it'll be by issue. Like, even just talking about affirmative action, right? Like, that's one issue, but it takes on regional, geographic, and class connotations, right? So how would you theorize Asian Americans being in solidarity on the issue of affirmative action when, for example, the way affirmative action works in California, one of the big states for Asian Americans, very different from how it works in Texas, which is, again, very different from how it works in New York, right? So how would we be in solidarity over that? What would be our interest that isn't better reflected as like class solidarity? So I think this racial solidarity thing actually hides a lot of issues with it, because a lot of times it's going to be conditional on, I think the big one after race would be by class. I know Asians in California are deeply divided on the issue of affirmative action by class, and also what generation you belong to and what position your children are in. So I don't really see like the failure of Asians to unite on this isn't actually a negative to me. Insofar as there's Asian American solidarity, that really just means, to me, that just means a group response to not being fucked with on the outside, from the outside. This is why things like a strong stance against, violence against our elders, right? This should be a hard red line. I wasn't certain whether we would be collectively drawing it, yet it's been shown that we can. So we've shown, I would say, a lot of solidarity. I mean, fuck the blue checks, fuck that 1% that Tina's talking about, of course. But on the whole, I think if I were to see another Asian American on the street, I feel like I have a little bit more of an understanding with him or her based on the current social circumstances we are facing right now, that are specific, that are peaking right before our faces right now. On any other thing, I don't know. And I don't think it's a failure of us being Asians or, everyone's favorite bugaboo, white supremacy. It's not a tool of white supremacy that this Asian and I disagree on affirmative action or something. That's not the goal of solidarity to me. Solidarity to me really can just boil down to, don't fuck with me. Like, I don't want this person to fuck with you. I want to fuck with you. Right. And I want that disagreement honored without a mediating influence. I don't want someone else taking credit for it either. So yeah.
Yeah, you guys are
very well
that
said.
The secret handshake that I've been practicing is
what?
Is going to be useless. The secret handshake I've been practicing is going to be useless then.
I'll do it with you. I'm game.
No, hey, we can agree on that level of solidarity. We'll do the handshake, but then I might hate you at the end of it.
All right.
I mean, but it's like you're inventing a secret handshake in COVID, so that's lame.
That's true. That's true.
Really just
I'm getting vaccinated tomorrow, so I can start shaking hands again.
That's right.
Electric Image Express, Sean. Hey, what's up, Sean? Great comment here. Do we know if there is more or less performance in other minority communities in America? Honestly curious. Answer is fuck yes. Fuck yes.
There's a lot.
That's the thing. That's one of the most valuable lessons doing Plan A is everything you think is fucked up with Asian America is at least as bad in other communities. There's nothing unique about us.
Way worse.
And there was also another comment that happened that was like way earlier about how like Reddit was sort of the not vanguard, but it was like sort of ahead of its time, and then like it's now where it was 4 years ago is the mainstream now. There are a lot of instances where we've seen like other racial groups having conversations now that Asian America had maybe 2 or 3 or 4 years ago. So.
Yeah, I just want to. Okay, so I'm sure a lot of people have seen it in the news. Patrice Cullors, who is one of the 3 co-founders of BLM, recently bought this, like $1.4 million house, which actually is not that extravagant. I think. I mean, housing prices are insane anyway, but still, it just feeds into this whole known narrative that we don't really know what BLM, the corporation, is actually doing with their like $100 million. But anyway, back in 2019, she tweeted this, and it was so just mind-blowing that I screenshotted it, which is good because I think she deleted her Twitter account. But she says, "I'm so tired of being the Black Lives Matter girl. Can't wait till folks see me as a writer, artist, anything but this tired idea projection of who I am. I swear to God." Like, what the fuck? Like, and that's one of the reasons I am very uncomfortable of putting at least myself as some kind of activist, because it's like there are so many people who are better at this than I am, who are more knowledgeable about this than I am. My main interest is not so much in these political matters, and I would rather they talk about it than me or something. So it is way worse. I mean, Teen, you brought this up. Like, imagine if Stop Asian Hate became all about like Jen Fang, and she raised like $50 million, and then she bought like a $2 million house. That's like our equivalent of Asian American. Asian Americans, that would never happen. It's like us, we might raise like what, 10 grand? It's like the scale.
Well,
so
I mean,
smaller.
I don't know if anyone in the Black community thought that it would happen with BLM. I mean,
Well,
maybe some thought that it would.
There were quite a few
there
people
were
calling out
people who were calling
BLM.
it out from the beginning.
Champagne Sharks,
For a long time.
Trevor.
I'm
and
just
that's
saying
how
that we
that's how
shouldn't
knew,
be
but-
surprised
Yeah.
if it happens with Stop Asian Hate either. Like, we shouldn't.
Yeah,
Like,
but I don't think it's gonna get to.
impossible.
Yeah, like Stop Asian Hate is not
The
raising
scale is
$100 million.
unimaginable.
Yeah.
Were
Yeah,
corporations tweeting? Were corporations tweeting or posting hashtag BLM? Yeah,
Oh, they were. Yeah.
Yeah.
and they're starting to do with Stop Asian Hate now.
Yeah,
too.
I'm just saying
sort
that
of.
we
Yeah,
shouldn't
I
be
mean,
so
we
skeptical
had Asian
to think
Week
that,
for a week.
that-
They were so. Yeah.
that the grift and maybe it won't get there at the same speed, but I would not be surprised if suddenly someone got really rich from this. That's all I'm gonna say, because
I don't think
we should
I don't
dismiss
I
it.
don't know about like a $5 million real estate empire kind of rich. I don't know. It's I can definitely see it being manipulated and people being bad faith about it. We're just not going to see the same kind of scale.
So far, the largest
I don't know.
I don't know, collection of money around this was almost $1 million USD from that fuck around and find out grandma who like beat the shit out of that white guy with her stick, and she donated it back to the community. Like that's the
Yeah,
big
But that was from us anyway. I bet like 90%
and
of those donors were Asian anyways. Just like,
sure, right? But like that's the amount of like capital we've seen come out of this activism or whatever.
And a big part, and I think this is actually kind of a problem, is that the most prominent people doing that kind of activism are themselves already well positioned class wise. So we're not. So we're not seeing like grassroots people who are actually living in the Chinatowns and having to deal with these conditions. They're not actually the ones at the forefront. When CNN's calling up panelists to staff their Stop Asian Hate segments or whatever, if you look at each of those people, they're very well. They're well off.
Yeah, and we all know why, because there's a danger they
value.
And we all know why, because they might say something like embarrassing, and then we're like the Asian gatekeepers afraid of that.
Yeah, but the BLM, the people who are out front with that, like DeRay and other stuff, like they weren't in the group of people who are living in the neighborhoods that were getting attacked, right? I mean, I look, you're probably right that it's not going to be to the same extent in terms of money, but I don't think the BLM folks were made that for house money off of like small donations, right? I mean, that was like corporate money. That's like Ford Foundation and like Gates Foundation money.
Warren Buffett and Bill Gates actually owns one of the parent companies of BLM.
I think
really? Wow.
I think BLM. Seriously. The thing with BLM is that it was a threat, and I don't think Stop Asian Hate is a threat. No. I think BLM. And I think white America always has feared black insurrection and what that could possibly mean.
That's true.
Although
I don't think they fear black people taking over the country. I think they fear what they're going to have to do.
Yeah. Although one interesting twist is that if you see, say, like China playing up these anti-Asian attacks for their own purposes, it could have a multiplying effect in a way that no African country has the power to play up these anti-black attacks to pose a real threat to the U.S. interests. So that is something to watch out for.
Yeah. Sure, let's give it a try. Dear China, find our Patreon. Let's give it a shot.
Topics for a sec. Back to something that Filip was saying about what was the chart again? The Clueless Asians on TikTok.
Yeah, bring it back up.
Here we go. The Gen Z Clueless Asians, and then Jong, you were saying
Asian Clubhouse.
Jong and Chris, y'all were talking about like, is there it's like this cyclical thing where it's like the same thing gets said ad infinitum and we never learn. And I kind of agree with
we never learn, but it is much slower.
I mean, the debate was that was sort of the I would say though that like something that surprised me was I read that of the 19 or 20 million Asian people in America, that 3/4 of them were born outside of the U.S.
Yeah, it's like about
That's
66,
unreal.
like 2/3 are a foreign born. That's like
okay, 2/3. Wow.
Do you know what the age demographics in that are?
I don't. I do not. But that's a lot, and that means that second gen and more are seriously in the minority.
Yeah, it's a minority of a minority. Yeah.
Right, and I think we're all second gen, I believe. I mean, more like even if we're not all technically second gen, right? Like Adam is not, but like culturally speaking, I think we're all second gen.
Yeah, I'd say that.
Right, and so we're in the minority. Like we don't represent like the average Asian mindset, And I would say that one thing, and Amanda's been posting about this on Twitter, which I find interesting. There's all these like headlines now saying like two American for China and two Chinese for America. Where do I fit? I'm of two identities. I don't know where I fit. I don't know where I belong. And I think that part of that is you take the term Chinese American or Asian American, and you basically know what you're trying to say in these like dichotomies. Like I'm too Asian to be white. That's the American side. American is like this weird, imperfect synonym for white. And the Asian part is the thing that you're trying to leave behind or whatever, or you're trying to go back to, but you can't or whatever, right? And I think the thing that maybe we understand a little bit more being in this sort of like smaller 2G minority is that dichotomy is kind of fucked up. It's like couched on a sort of an assimilation axiom that like we are supposed to eventually blend into the background color and we'll be just like every other white American or white adjacent American or whatever. And the thing is, we have I guess the reason I'm tying this to what you said is regarding cyclicality or whatever is that there is no cycle here. This is like the first time there's been this many second gen Asians. And even then we're still a minority. And so we have no precedent for what's going to happen. We have no understanding or we have no history to guide us as to where Asian people go from here. And so what am I trying to say is like you got nothing to learn from.
Yeah,
that's the thing that
also that's like the blessing and the curse of being second generation. You got nothing to build on, but that means you have all the freedom in the world to do it. So we better not fuck this up. That's my stance.
Blank canvas.
Yeah. So that I guess I don't know. I don't know how long,
because I think this is like we're building this this new culture. We're terraforming this shit too. That's what I never liked about assimilationism. It always assumed that the person doing the assimilating comes in as a blank slate. It kind of like defies like it's. Do you know what I mean? Like the assumption like that it's, you know, assimilated versus not, kind of this binary kind of implies that you yourself contribute nothing to this thing you are assimilating into, and you come with nothing.
Yeah.
That you are simply there to be imprinted upon. That's a very strange mindset to be thinking about this in. I think the process of having confronted this culture, this new culture, we change it as much as we are changed by it. And I think the thing that we have to just believe going forward is that will make a difference. This is like the third time in public that I've said this, but like we're about 20 million strong, more or less across the United States and Canada. This is the biggest this population will be for the foreseeable future, and nothing short of absolute catastrophe is going to swell its ranks. So I won't hope for that.
What about what Matt Iglesias said about 1 billion Americans? Shouldn't we, like, I don't know, populate the country more to some extent?
I haven't taken him up on that, to be honest. I haven't quite gotten around to it. I don't know how many kids you guys have now, but I haven't really put that into action.
It's
a fairly good book, actually. It's a fairly good book, I'm gonna say.
Well, if you see a picture of Matt Iglesias, the last thing you want to think about is sex and population. But hey, this is all interesting. But more importantly, John Romero, you said I look very different than what you imagined.
What did you think he would look like?
You know, I'm very curious. What does that mean?
Draw us a picture.
And also, yes, this will be available on the channel after the stream. I think YouTube automatically saves it as a video, but I will try to make sure that it is available.
Okay, since we have the graphic up, can I suggest we talk about Asian Clubhouse and make that our kind of final topic? Because we're coming up on an hour and 40. Because a bunch of times we touched on this idea of like Asian Americans talking to Asians, and this part of the very online Asian Americans actually hits on that topic to a T. So I had a conversation with one of our listeners, Lucas. I'm not sure if Lucas is watching right now or not, and we spent like an hour and a half just talking about what he saw in Asian Clubhouse. So Clubhouse is this app where you can go on and have like these kind of, you know, audio dialogues with a bunch of other people. And when he went on there, he saw two really interesting things. First of all, he saw a lot of people. He met a lot of people on there, Asian Americans from the States and Canada who knew about Plan A.
Hell yeah!
To me.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. It actually made me get a sense that like our stats kind of suck, and we actually don't know how big our audience
pill
is.
all
but
the way.
tons of people apparently he met just like in these random Clubhouse rooms talking about random Asian American topics who knew about Plan A and said they loved Plan A. So that was cool. But the second thing was there was this interesting group of Asian American clubhouses where, and this is why it uses emojis on this image here of the American flag, the wavy emoji, and the China flag. The wavy emoji is often used as like the de facto emoji of Clubhouse. But there's these clubhouses that are set up specifically to lure in people from Asia, often like mainland China, into the same room as people from America and have them talk to each other on a topic. Okay. And
it's kind of cool.
Lucas and his buddies he's met through Asian Clubhouse and his other friends who are on there saw a whole bunch of these rooms pop up, at least like months back when it was still very fresh. Now it's quite different because it's getting, mainstream or whatever. But back then you'd have these rooms where they would actually like put like Chinese characters, in the title to draw Chinese users because like, Clubhouse opened up the gates to Taiwan at one point, South Korea at one point, China at one point, and that brought in like tons and tons of users. Apparently like Chinese, like China Clubhouse is like so fucking big that it's taken over Clubhouse as a whole. But people were trying to intentionally form these rooms. I'm not sure if it's on the American side or the Chinese side to draw in people from those two countries to talk to each other. And the dynamic is really interesting because they would actually have people in there speaking in Mandarin, and they would actually have a person like translate, like as a dedicated translator, translating what they're saying, from English to Mandarin and backwards, just in case some of the audience members were like second gen or whatever and didn't understand, had bad Mandarin or whatever, right? So they would get the full conversation.
That's cool.
And I don't remember all the
diplomatic summit.
Yeah, cool.
Kind of, right? But like, online and very, real time. And they would talk about some of the topics you mentioned were like, like what is it like to like live in China? What is it like to like, be a student in America? What is it like to kind of immigrate between the two countries? Like topics that you'd imagine there. Some of them got a bit political as well, right? I think there's some conversation around the violence going on in America right now, right? Which is probably on the minds of Chinese folks who may be thinking about being a student in America soon. But Clubhouse has basically enabled this kind of conversation, this discourse between Asian Americans and Asians, which I don't think has really, in a scaled way, like ever really happened before. Okay, so overall, like amongst all these other groups that is on this diagram, like probably kind of small, but super fascinating to me that discourse is happening. Okay, and I think that another interesting part of this related to that is that there's now this growing group of diaspora Asians, Asian Americans, who are talking about, going back to the motherland, back to China, to Taiwan, to Singapore, to Vietnam, and so on. Like, there's a whole program for VitQ, people like me who are like Vietnamese but born elsewhere, to bring them back to like run businesses, start businesses, work in Vietnam. Right, and likewise for other groups as well. So we've seen, in our groups, we've seen discords that popped up, people who are just talking about strategizing around moving from the west to the east, and these clubhouses are, I think, a part of that, right? Because I think there's a lot of interest in forming communications between the two groups, which have been divided for so long. So anyway, I wanted to put that out there because I thought that was a very interesting development that we've only seen enabled by this specific Clubhouse technology, right, in the last little while. So.
Is it going to be the case that they're just going to be iOS only? That's just
they have to expand that.
So now Team wants in because he's on a fucking fancy like Samsung phone or something like that.
No, I'm serious. Is that part of the feature? Is that it's iOS only?
No, this
feature. I don't know.
This is part of the issue of Clubhouse, right? Is that it's a very specific crowd. It's a very techie crowd. It's a very kind of there's a lot of VC people on there, right? Startup Silicon Valley people on there. It is expanding now. They will probably eventually, release on Android at some point. But right now, it is very much so that iOS crowd. So there's a certain class of people who are having conversations there.
I refuse. Once it goes to Android, I refuse. Because
the thing I think about is that once it goes to Android, think about how many fucking people from China are gonna like. There's already a ton of people from China already on there, right? They're all on Android phones out east, right? They're gonna flood
True.
this space for sure.
Just as a
So-
quick aside, so Mitsu Waltz asked if this has been made for other years, and it has not. I know of, at least. Filip
We have
didn't make it.
internal planning documents when we were like getting Plan A off the ground that we had stuff like this. Remember?
Oh, we
We're
did,
like,
we did
here's
talk
the
about
cycle
this.
of Asian
Chance.
discourse online. It gets
But-
generated it gets generated in Reddit.
Right.
It gets reposted in Facebook.
There might have
it
been
gets-
like yes.
It filters upwards to NextShark, and then
we should make
finally
a
to
work-
NBC. At which point it goes back around back into Reddit, and then the
So-
whole thing, the human centipede, just keeps going.
I should make I should do a Visio diagram of that, right, Filip? Just do
Yeah,
like a
that's right.
workflow diagram.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, there isn't like a 2020 version and a 2019 edition but
The 2017 version was like our Asian American, our Asian
RAI,
identity,
East-
our
yeah.
Asian 2X, you know.
Yeah,
Asian
Ivory
2X,
Tower
that's right.
academics on Twitter, like that. They're still there. They're just less relevant these
Wait,
days.
you know what's amazing is you don't have Reddit on here anywhere.
No, because they're kind of being subsumed. In fact, Reddit, like RAM, spends a lot of time talking about the AM Himbos and the critics of the AM Himbos too. So it's
So do you think where did most of the Redditors go to the AM Himbos?
they're
And,
still doing. Yeah, no,
No,
they're
no,
still doing.
I think
I
they're
think
too old
I
to be
think you
the
age
himbos.
out.
Yeah,
I
they
see.
have to
I see
age out.
people.
It's been 2 years.
It's
I
a
think they were the
mindset
feeder
as much
crowd.
as it is.
Are you saying it's an aesthetic, not a political identity, Jess?
It is. It is very aesthetic. It's definitely very like fuckboy aesthetic for sure these days. But
Let's talk about
I think-
pipeline for a second here. So where do these people come from? Where do you think they're gonna go? The only one that's like Clubhouse is kind of a new thing, and I'm not really sure that's really a type or just a new platform that people are liking. I like what you're saying about what like the dialogue that's happening, but I mean now they're trying to monetize, so you can be on there and charge for your time on Clubhouse. So I mean
They
I see
are,
that,
that's
and
right.
I have a hard time thinking how that this is going to be anything other than like blue check OnlyFans in the near
Sort
future.
of like, but isn't Twitter trying to do that too, where they're trying to help people monetize
I
their
mean, they're all
tweets?
doing the same
Oh,
thing.
Yeah.
I think it
Um,
tried, but then it got so much hate. I wouldn't be surprised if they dropped it.
Yeah, but I mean, I saw that pretty recently. That Clubhouse is going to
Yeah.
try to let individual like room hosts or whatever monetize their time. I feel like this is camming for blue checks. I don't know. It's going
Without
to
a
evolve
cam.
from there.
Without a cam.
Yeah.
We should keep fleshing
on
this.
iOS
I like
only.
this. I like what we've got here. We should flesh
Yeah.
this out. I think we're missing a good amount.
we
We're missing
gotta add Asian male OnlyFans on here, which we completely forgot that group.
And we got to
Oh.
change the
Yeah,
format.
once-
There was one
once
before
that-
about it has to be the starter kit.
We will
format
know we all
as
have
well.
true equality when we have Asian male OnlyFans.
Yeah, we need Asian
Well,
male OnlyFans. We need what else do we need in here? We need the Cash Me Out ones.
The only people I don't have a sense of where they're going in trajectory is the AM Himbos. Where do you think those guys are going to go?
To the moon.
Well, that's the thing we don't know because
Diamond
never.
heads.
No,
That's
this is
the
a
correct
totally new demographic who, for better or for worse, maybe completely oblivious to the age old gender wars among Asian
Yeah.
Americans, and I do wonder if there is a whole cohort of Asians who really don't know any of this shit, because there are
Yeah.
lots of very popular TikToks in which you'll
I
have
hope so.
Asian girls, and I'll call them girls because I think they're like teenage or maybe slightly older, and they will go on these rants about these Asian guys who are fetishizing themselves and shit like that. And then Filip and
Yeah.
I will watch it and be like, what the fuck? Like this
Dude,
is
that blows my
unimaginable.
mind,
Yeah,
man.
it
Blows
blows our
my
mind.
mind.
It's unimaginable when like we were that age. That never
Blows
would
my
have even
mind.
been an issue. And we have no idea how to predict these people because there's no precedence for them.
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. So we shall see.
Next time we should rearrange this into like a bracket style, and
Yeah.
see who's going to win.
Yeah.
out.
Who will
Fight each
survive?
other.
Who's the
We will seed
Our
them.
fathers.
Who would be number 1 seed and who would be number 16?
Number
right?
1 would have to be like the Boba Libs, right? Just by number alone.
Perhaps.
Yeah, they're going to come
Right?
in with a 1 seed for sure.
Yeah, they're overall 1 seed right there.
Yeah, I think the Asian Tankies come in as a hopeful Cinderella.
They're in the play. They're in the
They're
play-in
like
game.
the
They're in the play-in game.
butler. They're like a butler during the Brad Stevens
They're
era.
like they're like sub 12 seed.
Yeah, they're in the play-in.
But
they
they're
going to
win their
versus some group that we make
Yeah,
up
but it's
right now.
it's a dangerous 12 seed.
That's right. That's right. They're like the UCLA, right? They were 11 seed this year, but everyone forgets that they won 10 championships.
They're like Northern Texas.
They're Gonzaga before Gonzaga became like a big thing.
Yeah.
All right. So we're at an hour and 50 minutes.
Should we wrap this up?
Yeah. We should keep it to 2 hours, I guess.
Sure.
That's generous, by the way. We're a generous crowd. All our free content.
I honestly, and I feel like I should stop being surprised. Before this, I was like, are we gonna have anything to talk about?
Yeah, we didn't even have an outline.
Should know by now.
No.
I should know by now.
No.
Yeah, I should know by now that that's never our problem.
That's
Yeah.
We
never
will
And
a
the
talk
problem.
about it.
And the fact that we were live, we didn't have our scripts, all our prepared routines, so I didn't know how we're gonna
Hey, I
how we're gonna
prepared
pull
this
this off.
I prepared this JPEG.
Yeah, wait, I didn't have my 3-page outline for exactly what I was going to say. I mean, but yeah, so we're going to hopefully do a lot more of these.
Yeah, it'll be at least every week, I think.
Yeah, and,
Oh,
and, I encourage us to just sort of pop on, even if it's 1 or 2 people, just for a few minutes even. I take inspiration from T, who dropped off a bit, but I'll see that he just pops on for 10 minutes to like say he did it, just to keep a presence. And he'll have a series of like 10-minute or 5-minute streams, and then you'll have like a 3-hour one. So the guy's busy.
Yeah.
All right. But yeah, so this was a lot of fun. It won't be 6 of us every time. It'll sometimes be.
Hey, maybe it will
only a
be,
few.
yeah.
Maybe it will be.
We'll try.
We are a chatty bunch. Yeah.
It would be cool if CS was on one of these. If Millie was
Yeah,
on one of
yeah.
these, David,
John
Yasmin.
Romero, if you're still on, tell me what you expected me to look like. I'm very curious what you meant by that.
Oh man, this
right.
is eating Chris up alive.
We're
Oh my
not. We're
God.
not ending the stream.
What do you mean,
until-
John?
Yeah, we're
What do
not
you
ending
mean?
this. We're not ending the stream until John Romero does his sketch. And
Wait,
shares
isn't
it
it
with
Or a
us.
bad thing? What the
I
fuck?
look better
man?
than you thought, or I look
Isn't
worse than you
John
thought. Either
Romero-
way, I'm not happy.
If
Isn't
it's
John
better,
Romero
then that's I don't
the guy
know.
who made Doom and Daikatana? Isn't
Yeah,
that John
software
Romero?
guy?
Yes,
Yeah,
that's
that's the same
That's
name.
it.
Yeah.
Oh fuck, the Doom guy. He's on this.
You surprised the Doom guy, Chris.
Oh,
Congratulations.
Yeah. Look,
But,
Daikatana, I bought that game for like $1, and I got stuck on this level because like the programming wouldn't let me go through the door. So, fuck you, John Romero. You screwed up in your game.
But yeah, so hopefully we'll have all sorts of topics. I know this coming week, our free podcast should be the one that we did with a new guest, Connie. She's a game developer. We talk about gaming with Filip. We're gonna do a lot more gaming content. It won't be us playing games, though. If you guys want us to just stream, I guess we can start doing that. I don't know. But we'll be talking about just game development. We might actually talk to Intume as well about sort of the intersection of gaming and movies and other media, because I think gaming, in my
He's a
mind,
gamer.
is
I
sort of-
didn't know that.
He games, yeah. I think.
Oh,
See,
shit.
that's the thing, right? Everyone is a gamer at this point.
I'm not a gamer.
But you
don't
play
play
games.
games.
You play
No, I don't.
games. Yeah, you do. Well, you
Yeah.
used to.
No.
Yeah, Pong
He doesn't
maybe.
play any games.
All
I
right.
don't
So
play
games.
Teen is the
All the
only
time.
person in the United States that like doesn't even play Candy Crush.
My
But,
my
okay.
PC is incapable of it, and I don't have a console.
All right, fine.
See,
Anyway.
this is Twitter is his game, the game
Twitter's
of
my game.
life.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, but anyway, we'll be doing more game content, but related to other media, and then
What's this? Somebody made a comment. You
which
sold
one?
out or something when the first food tasting video goes up.
mukbang. Yeah, so we
Somebody-
can mukbang. We will not do mukbang.
Ah, we should do that.
Where you
Yo,
make fun of white
hey.
people food. We could do that.
We
can
actually
make-
have to do that.
Yo,
We
who's the
can do
best
Teen,
cook
Teen,
here?
you're eating on half the pods anyway.
That's
I know.
true. It's de facto mukbang.
It's
But,
gross.
Yo, who's the
Yeah,
best cook
so-
here? Who's the best cook here?
I want to say
I would
Filip
say-
might be the best
Yeah,
one. You
I
make
don't
some
know.
good shit,
I
dude.
don't know.
Yeah.
It might be
Yeah.
between Filip and me. I don't know. I think we
I don't
cook
know.
the most
Teen-
here.
Teen's
I
like
know
a dark
Teen, but
horse
you
here.
We haven't
No,
seen
no,
it
I'm
on your
like I'm a
on
cook.
Twitter.
I'm not a chef. You see, I'm just plowing through. I'm just trying to make calories. I don't do the fancy shit.
your place. I had really good meals at your place. I don't know.
Yeah.
No, I can make
Chris
food,
can
but I mean,
definitely
I'm not.
cook well.
It's not Instagrammable. It's not. I'm not.
Yeah,
I'm not
exactly. We're definitely want to get into Mayon.
I'm not a himbo of the kitchen like you guys.
Yasmin, I mentioned that we're our pod's coming up. But yeah, I mean, yeah, I think
Yasmin should
Jong's
come
probably
on.
the closest.
We should just have that. Yeah, we should have Yasmin on.
Yeah, we should.
It's always a party when Yasmin is on.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And yeah, Jong can like represent the Himbos on something. No, I'm kidding.
Oh yeah.
He's got the hair. He's got the hair.
Yeah. So lots of things.
Yeah.
Lots and lots of
That time has
content.
come.
Well, we have book club, so maybe we'll talk. And I think the last pod that we did that we released yesterday, or maybe was it this morning, was about a book, right? War, Peace, and War, or something.
By Peter Turchin. Please read that book. It's a very good book. Yeah.
I'm halfway through that pod, and then we did
Yeah.
this, but it's excellent. It's really good discussion, actually. I want to read the book now.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
It's a really good book. It actually helped shape my thinking. I definitely want to talk more about it.
Yeah.
Because it's like, like the minute the mic went off, I'm like, Chris, I have things to say about communism.
See,
All
that's
of
the
a
thing that
sudden-
always happens with everything.
Yeah.
But yes, Jong OnlyFans.
Can we do one where we just bitch? Can we just bitch about young people?
Sure.
Did we just do that?
Yeah, I just
Are
want
there
one where
like
I just
5 families? That
I just
Philip's
really
go
full,
fucking
get off my
like,
lawn.
Clueless.
tax on.
Yeah.
Who's the youngest among us here? Might be Jong.
Jong, I think.
Am
How old
I?
are you, Jong?
33. I'll turn 34 this year.
Oh, I'm 33.
Okay, so you're the youngest.
Okay.
Wait, how old are you, Philip?
What's
Yeah,
your
Chris.
I'm
What's your
Jong's
birthday?
age.
Oh,
Okay, so
okay,
we
the
have
three of us.
A little
Okay.
bit of cluster around the 30, 30, 34.
So who turns
The-
34 the latest?
Well, I have a February birthday, so I'm probably the oldest of the 33s.
Oh,
Okay.
but you turned 33 this year. So
Yeah.
I think you're younger than me at least.
Oh, okay. So Philip is the youngest.
No, Chris, you're the youngest. You're going to be by 1 year.
Yeah, by a year.
There you go.
Wait,
Mhm.
Philip, I thought you said you were 33.
I'm turning 34
Yeah.
this year.
Oh, okay. All right.
Okay,
Okay.
then. All right. Well, I have no idea how to end this other than to end it.
Just end it.
That's the button.
All right,
Just
cut,
keep going.
cut.
Yeah, I
But
think you
it was
just.
good. It was
I
good
don't-
seeing everybody. It was good
Yo,
chatting.
Yo, did
and
you see
just-
this comment, Jong? Jong reminds me of
Yes.
that Asian dude from Six Pack Shortcut.
And that is a great place to end it. And we will see you guys next week, probably the
Like
same
Chad.
We're
time.
not going to top that. Okay.
Yeah.
All
right,
Bye,
see ya.
everybody.
All right. Bye, all.
Bye, everybody.